I've never been a big talker throughout my life. I've always been comfortable with listening. Always made a habit of soaking up information. I didn't realize how much it was shaping me when I was younger because when you're the quiet person in the room, you always get the title or, the title shy plastered on you, right? Because you like being quiet. You go into a room, you're not the first to talk. You're not the first one to raise your hand. You're observing. They assume you don't have anything to say, that they might assume that you're not paying attention. I'm not going to be in there trying to butt in and talk. I'm listening to you and I'm processing what you're saying. And then once you finish, then I'll get my input. I need all of the information first before I speak. That's just how I move. In this situation, in the atmosphere I go into, first thing I'm doing is observing, right? I'm quiet. What am I doing? The whole time, I'm simply studying the room, simply studying the people. I'm not going to any environment. I don't care if I've been in the environment before. This environment may be different because if it's different people in the environment, okay, so now who is that person? Never seen that person before. Or I know who that person is. I know how they move. So yeah, I need to see what's going on before I inject myself in any situation. I'm observing first. So I'm not want to just go in and start talking. And a lot of people are like that. I'm just not like that. I never have been like that. I never changed the way I structured myself as far as entering an environment and handling myself in an environment because it's proved me right way more than it proved me wrong. It has proved me wrong. Let's just say that. And growing up, whenever like my uncles would tell me something, my grandparents, grandfathers, and older cousins or whatever, I'm listening, right? I'm listening to them, what they said worked, what they say didn't work, right? So I'm calibrating my brain at that point. I'm listening to how they think, how they operate. I'm paying attention to the mistakes they said they made. I'm listening to the lessons that they learned. Why? Because I'm not a person that needs to have gone through something to learn from what somebody else has gone through and how they approach the situation. Do you have to do everything they do? No, you don't. But listening to what they did and how they overcame something or how they did something wrong can actually help you and shape how you move in your own life when you're approaching some of the same things. It's just being aware of situations. You can help yourself by doing that before you even approach them. So at that point, when I was doing that, I was becoming a student of the game. What game? Any game. Just student of life in general. Being quiet became my advantage. I learned to listen. I learned to not be so quick to talk. I learned to not speak too soon and put yourself in a terrible situation. I learned to not show my hand and show who I am not too fast before I see what environment I'm in. I see what type of people I'm around. I see how they think. I see how they move. And as I got older, it became ingrained in me. What I built, the foundation I built became ingrained in me. So now, as an adult, I know how to listen. I know how to enter situations. I have a lot of self-control when entering situations. I can control how I speak. I can control what I say. And I know how to say things to people and still get my point across because first I know how to listen. First, I know how to read people. So listening allows you to read people. Because when you're so quick to talk, you're not learning anything. You can't learn and talk at the same time. You have to be quiet. You learn when you're taking information. You learn when you know how to take in information. And think about listening and learning lessons from other people is every success story has a set of skills that were mastered. So that's why I feel like everyone has something to give to other people. The older I've gotten, the less impressed I am with the finished product. Yeah, I see the results. The results are great, because you've been through a lot. So it's great that you was able to overcome and be able to experience your results, your final product. But as I've gotten older, I've been more intrigued by the struggle. I've been more intrigued by what you overcame. Not that because I like to live in a traumatic atmosphere or things like that. It's just that those are where the lessons come from. So you could tell me you obtained all these achievements, but I'm like, how did you get there? right? Not being really intrigued by the struggle story, but the struggle is where the lessons are. What did you learn so that you can reach this final product? That's what I've been more intrigued with as I've gotten older. So that's why I like to read books like that, where people have learned lessons and has some struggle to them or whatever. Not that you have to struggle, but I think everyone has some form of struggle. I don't care if you grew up rich your whole life. You have some things that I might not understand because I didn't grow up rich my whole life. Right? I'm not rich now, but I didn't grow up a rich kid, spoon fed. I didn't grow up like that. I didn't grow up terrible, but I didn't grow up like that. But there's some people that did grow up like that. They have stories that they can tell that someone like myself don't understand because I didn't have that type of lifestyle. Now, on the flip side, I could tell you, based on what my story is, I didn't grow up spoon fed. There's some things I had to learn, some things I had to overcome in my life. So I can speak from that, right? So those, I can give you lessons that I learned. But I think those two contrasting backgrounds, both sides have lessons that they can teach, right? So I'm intrigued by the lessons you learned through the struggle before you even got to this great high place. I want to know what happened when you were down there. What you learned when you were at the bottom. That's what I want to know. I want to know what you learned before you reach this, attain this high ranking in your life. Great, you won a championship. But what struggles did you experience during the season? Because those were the lessons were built for you to obtain that championship. The trial and error eventually becomes the story, not the success. Such as your career. You can be at where you at now in your career, but you had to have some mishaps, some mistakes, some struggle along your way to reaching the status you are in your career. As a husband, right? I didn't start as the best husband. I got married at 24. I'm 37. You don't think I had some growth in 13 years? I have tremendous growth. I went from thinking in a young man's mind into a fully grown man, right? So I had to grow. Some struggle there as well. So I had to become a better husband, a better father. I have 2 girls. My oldest daughter, I had to learn how to be a father. That was my first time becoming a father. As the years went on, I became a better father. I learned how to handle situations better. Like I said, there was some struggle, but I got better. I have 2 girls now. I have a second daughter. It's easier to handle my second daughter, sort of, because she's a handful, but she's different. But anyway, I'm more equipped for it because I've already been through it before, right? This is my second time becoming a father. So all I say is you're going to go through some struggle. The trial and error becomes the story, though, not the success. The advice that I would give to fathers or new husbands or anybody just starting their career will not come from the level that I am now. It's going to come from the lessons that I learned through the trial and error. But believe it or not, there is a problem with simply being a student. Eventually, the student has to apply the information. The information I learned growing up, the information I learned at the beginning of my career, the information I've learned when I first became a father, when I first became a husband, eventually I had to start applying the information that I've learned along the way to get better in all of those areas. If I did not apply the information, I'm just sitting here learning and not applying anything, the information I learned is absolutely pointless. So we have to go from being a student to applying the lessons and knowledge that we learn. I consider myself a chronic learner, which can also turn to procrastination because you read another book, there's another podcast, there's another audio book, just another thing for you to learn. But if you're not applying the information, like, all those people have several degrees, they might have 2 master's degrees, bachelor degrees, doctorates, but you like, so why are they not in a certain position in life? It's because they're not applying all the information that they learn. They're just acquiring the next thing, but you're not applying the knowledge. You have all these degrees, but you're not applying the knowledge. You got 2 master's degrees and doctors. For what if you're not going to use that information? You're not going to do anything with it. And yes, I know people like that. I'm like, how they have this? They're not even applying, they're not doing nothing with it, though. Those are chronic learners. They're not applying the knowledge, they're just acquiring knowledge, which is absolutely pointless. That is the issue. That's the biggest issue if the person is just being a student, you have to eventually apply the information. Knowledge has to become action. Knowledge has to become action eventually. I've always been this quiet guy. I'm outspoken now, but I've always been this quiet guy. Never been the biggest talker, but eventually I understood that being quiet was my advantage. Being the quiet person in the room became my advantage. Sure, people wonder about you, inquire about you, like, why you not speaking, why you not doing this? I have nothing to say right now. I'm acquiring knowledge. I'm chilling right now. I'm trying to peep what's going on around me. I'm not about to come in here just talking. I'm not about to come in here having something to say without understanding what's going on. It's not what I do in any area of my life. A regular social gathering, I'm not going to go in before I understand what's going on right now and I understand the atmosphere. I'm not going to go in the meeting just talking and yapping away before I understand what this meeting is about and what direction we're going to move in and how to interject in this meeting. Just is not what I'm going to do. At this point in my life, I moved away with just simply being a student. I collect information, I give information. I'm quicker on it now. I think at 37, I'm not old, but at 37, I've experienced enough of my life to acquire enough information to be able to give information now. So that's where I am with my life. And I don't wait and say, hey, I need all the attention on me. I need to be in a room with a group of people to give information, or a group of kids or teenagers to get information. I get information to all the kids that are connected to me in any sort of fashion. Even the kids, a kid I'm passing by, if they open up to me talking about something, and like I used to teach, so if they open up talking to me about something, I'm going to give my opinion. I'm going to give my advice, even if it's a quick 5 minutes. I see a person coming, which happens all the time, adults or kids, it doesn't matter. They do it all the time. They'll say something to me, and I get to understand, like, okay, they want my feedback, right? And I'm clear with that. Do you want me to give you feedback? You want my opinion? Often they say, pretty much all the time, they say yes. Okay, I have to be clear in that because some people, they tell you stuff, they don't really want your opinion or your feedback. But I don't like to waste my time. So that's when I give it to them. I'm like, okay, so they want my feedback. They're talking to me and wanting to open up about this conversation. So I do it all the time. Like, it's a young guy right now. He's a father, new husband. I'm like, I've been a husband since I was 24 for 13 years. 13 years. I got married young, right? I've been a father. My oldest daughter now is 9 for 9 years. So to new fathers, new husbands, I'm kind of right in the middle. So I'm a good source to talk to. So I tell them about lessons I had to learn, the trial and error. I tell them about the lessons I had to learn, things I had to overcome. Lady asked me, is this normal? Yes, that's normal, man. But this is what my experience was, and this is how I went about it. So that's how I teach, give out information. So if you are a quiet person, maybe being quiet is not your weakness. Maybe being quiet is your strength. Maybe that is your role on this earth, is to be a student so that you can acquire the information, so then you can give out lessons and be the teacher. Being quiet is not a weakness. It is your advantage.